having to have their references APA style or MLA style, things like that.
Okay, so the students who were non-mastery, what, okay, so you say, what contributed to them, the standard 17, what contributed to them not being able to master that particular standard?
Well, what I noticed is, some of the language, some of the words were, somewhat too complicated for them. And so I would, help them out with some of the words and then kind of show them how they can look it up online in terms of annotating. But, it was a lot of big words as they were looking up countries and seeing, some of the text that had difficult to understand words for them. And so I tried to help them out, but I need to do something to, to where they can translate those words better to their understanding.
So was it was vocabulary within the text?
Vocabulary within the text.
So were there any vocabulary that the students, would have seen across the board, or it's like it was independent research and?
Independent research.
So Excel would
Yeah,
not, okay.
I already had the Excel, but if they were reading the online articles and things like that, some of the information was just too much for them to grasp or understand. So I got to do a better job of selecting certain websites for certain students, the ones who did not master.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have a rubric for that
Yes, sir.
assignment? Will you send the rubric as well?
Okay.
And so for those kids who had no score, was it because they just didn't do anything? You said you had 20.
Yeah, 20. They didn't, well, a few, 20, they didn't show up.
Okay, so they didn't
Yeah, so
test.
they
Okay,
was out.
okay. Yeah, I would want to see the rubric with it and see what was the error. So the next level was 45 to 60.
45 to 64.
45 to 64. So I would want to see what kept those 45 to 64. What did they have in common based on the rubric?
Okay.
Okay.
You have my copy?
This is the one I brought, but I'll give it to you after. So,
So you want to leave that with me?
yeah, I'll leave this one. Ladies and gentlemen, from my scores from the last 10-day assessment, we're a little bit more balanced than previously. Not in the good way, but ladies and gentlemen, out of 133 students that I tested, I had 36 that had no score because I just had 36 absences the whole day. Actually, I had 35. One student refused to test. And that was about 27% of my students.
Will you give me that list of students? Because I've asked Ms. Terry for the no scores.
Okay.
I want to see the list of students.
Okay.
All right.
I can get that. For my 0 to 44, I had 25 students, and that's about 19%. For 45 to 64, I had 31 students, which is about 23% of my total. 12 students were in the 65 to 79% range, which is 10%, and for the 80 to 100% range, I had 29 students, which is about 22%. So it's about 20 to 25% in each category.
Okay.
So it's a pretty uniform distribution throughout. And I got really perplexed. I'm like, okay, what standards are they missing? What things are going on? But when I looked into it, they were pretty balanced through every standard. I had some students that were just getting everything, some students that were just getting nothing, and this was pretty uniform throughout all my classes. And from that, I do have my specifics on like what standards were the most missed.
So which ones were the most?
It was RN A2, which is exponential powers. I think that was because that was the most recent thing we did, and I thought the 10-day test was on Tuesday, but it was on Monday, so I missed a review day for a lot of my students on that regard. And so I think that's why that was the one that was the most missed. But even then, it was the only most missed by a little bit.
Now I know today you said you were going to go over the test, so maybe though, but you were waiting on Karen to finish.
Yes.
Okay.
For tomorrow, I actually plan to do a remedial like group activity for my 0 to 64%.
Yeah.
That I'm splitting everybody into groups of 4. That I wanted us to cover specific, each group to have assigned specific, like, hey, here's some notes that this is your group. We want you to cover out of the 16-question quiz. We want you to cover these 4 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these 4. These are the notes on it. Why is it not the answers that you chose if you're in my 0 to 64, or if you are in the further above, why isn't this one? For my group that was in the 65% mastery higher, I want them to be my group leaders. They know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They know mathematically what they're doing. Since I don't want to give them extra work on top of what they're doing, I want to give them the opportunity to explain mathematically with the rest of the group. Like, hey, here's what I did. It works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's an extra skill that we don't emphasize enough in certain math classes, being able to explain what you're doing properly. Not only do, but explain what you're doing. So I think not only will that be good for remediation for the people who didn't get it, get an extra shot, okay, I did this wrong, how can I do this again? But it's gonna give the people who did get it right an opportunity to refine their skills of explanation.
That's math practice number 4,
Yes, it is.
I think. Yeah.
And so that's what I had. This is what I was planning to do for all my classes tomorrow,
Okay.
all day Wednesday. Just like, hey, I'm about to do some renovations on my classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it should be a good activity, and it should help a lot of those students get through that remediation.
And then you're doing after school too.
I've already made it some notes that I need to call some parents, like, hey, your child is now going to be required to come to tutoring. Yeah.
And then don't forget about Saturday, next Saturday is Saturday school.
Yes. Here you go. I have made a copy.
Next Saturday, next Saturday.
I thought it was this Saturday.
23rd.
It's the 23rd? I thought it was.
Yeah, it's good 2 weeks, but it's canceled the one from last Friday.
Yeah.
Yes, it was canceled last Friday.
Okay, Mr. Hart.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, on my 10-day assessment, I had 4 standards, and one of the standards I've only spent a brief time on, and that's the one they struggle with the most, of course. But I didn't ask them anything that I hadn't already covered, but they hadn't had as much practice with those as they had the other ones. As far as,
Which standard was that they struggled with, that you didn't have? Is it
GSRT 81,
Okay.
that is, similarity and right triangles, and we just started the overall section of SRT. But anyway, I guess looking at the overall performance, I had 35 students with no score. That is 25% of my students. Rounding error. As far as the students that scored 0 to 44, that was 50 students that did that, and I don't think I calculated. I didn't finish calculating the percentage of that, but it's 50 out of 139 total.
I'll
About
back
a
that
third.
up.
The other,
The students with no score,
Yeah.
what are the,
36%.
they were absent.
do they have high absenteeism rate or?
Oh, yeah, I mean, a lot of them do anyway. I think some of them are absent on the suspension list. I did get a lot of that made up today. I did, except for second period when they have a lot of students going into intervention. I sent the intervention instead. But I do have I had 35 people not take it. I've got at least 6 or 7 tests sitting on my desk right now ready to score.
Okay.
So I don't know what's gonna happen next period and the period after that, but if it's anything like that, I'll have a third of those done today and probably all but 4 or 5 of them by
Well,
Wednesday
give me
or
that.
Thursday.
Give me that list of kids who didn't test.
Okay. And then, let's see, where was I? Oh, 0 to 44. And 50 students, what'd that come to?
50 to 37,
37%.
36%.
Okay, I think I rounded it to 40. I was just doing that last bit in my head right here, sitting at the table, but I knew that one right. All right, for students that scored between 45 and 64, I had 16 students in that category, that's 11%, give or take.
Yeah.
65 to 79, I had 20 students, which is 14%. And students that scored 80 to 100%, I had 13 people, and that's 10%. So, I mean, it's never enough. I need 100%, mastery. I get that, that's the way I feel about it. But,
Well, I want to also say, remember we set those 20 and
Yeah.
40 and 60-day goals. So
Mhm.
that's something that we need to revisit.
Yeah.
You know, it's about making that continual progress.
well, between the on track and mastery, I mean, it depends on what you call mastery. The upper level is mastery instead of beyond mastery. I've got 23 right now, 24% on this test. We're on track for mastery.
24%. What was your goal for
My
that?
goal for the last one was 20. I think that the next one was,
Okay.
I was taking it up to 30.
Okay, so
That's what it was.
okay,
But
but
in
we
the ballpark.
yeah, but we
Plus,
hit the
with the
first
ones that didn't test, those numbers may change.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
And again, a lot of those kids that needed to retest or to make it up were in intervention, and some of those are the
And
brightest lights
do
I
you
got
have
second
some
period.
time set aside for item analysis as well with your students, going back over?
No, I haven't set any time aside for anything
We
like
need to set some time to go back over those items. And one of the things I noticed, I was in Mr. Gadsden's class, give them some time, let them work the problems out. And then just say, hey, do you agree or disagree? And then, you can coach them through it at that point, but allow them to do the work, because what I noticed in one class, I don't think this is for every classroom, but the teacher just goes ahead and works the problem, and the
So
kids
you're talking about going back over the test questions.
and the kids are just kind of sitting there, and they're not taking notes, they're not reworking or anything.
Yeah.
So it's, you just
Well,
work.
I mean, I hate to do that before I get more kids tested, but
Right.
because they'll be in the
That's why I
class.
wait until-
Well, I think next week we have that, we got to do the power standards.
And block schedule's just that's gonna make it even tough on you, so that's why I'm waiting until tomorrow to do my remediation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I could make a different version of the same test.
I don't know. Check with Terry on this. She gets
Well,
some.
I mean, what I'm saying is I hate to go over problem by problem on a test
Okay.
with students sitting in there and hadn't taken it yet. That's not
Right.
fair because you did take
I
it.
mean, but if they not, if they haven't taken it, because when was the test administered?
Monday.
Okay. Yesterday?
Yeah.
That's when
Okay.
they supposed to assess.
Okay.
That's why, like, if I have a kid who shows up, like, they're taking the test today, like.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing today too. Except several of them were in this
Yeah.
intervention. Like I said, these are not the
Oh, yeah, you're the one.
These are not the slow students that get put in this intervention. They're the brightest lights I got in second period. They would, the ones that missed the test anyway, would have an impact on these numbers. I know they would. One of them in particular, one or two of them, really, really good, but they just weren't here on my team.
Okay.
Anyway, the students did the worst on this SRT standard, and that's one we just started on Friday. I have been, because it was on the power standards test, I did bring it up to them on Wednesday last week. But we didn't do any work with it. I just explained to them what that was about, and starting on the next day, Thursday and Friday, because it was blocked, we started doing some of the work with similar triangles, and it's just the beginning, dilating a figure. And so that's all I had on the test, was dilating a line segment. But there was 4 or 5 different questions about it. And, I know those kids are gonna grasp that when we get a little bit more work under our belts. But as it was just one class period, although it was block schedule.
When you look at the item analysis on those questions, was it an even distribution? Like, did everybody pick A? How many kids picked D over C?
To tell you the truth, Dr. Clayton,
Oh,
since I only gave the test yesterday and I had to have
Gotcha.
this done by today, I didn't
Gotcha.
really even look at it yet.
not a problem. Gotcha.
I was just looking at mastery total.
Yes, sir.
Just to get the numbers.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, any questions, I guess?
No.
But-
So you said for your students who are on track and mastery, you're going to do more complex.
Yeah, I think that's gonna take place in my honors class mostly.
Okay.
A lot of my kids that I have in other classes should be in the honors class though, but they are, there may be scheduling conflicts. Maybe they're in an AP course, or maybe they're in a different honors course that period or something. So I probably will hit some of them with the more complicated, more complex types of problems under the same standard. And let them, push a little bit further. Because, again, there's more to this standard. There's a lot more to it. It's just, we just got our foot in the door just now. This stuff gets, as complicated as you want to make it. It's what leads to trigonometry in the first place.
Yeah, let's keep it simple. And I know, Mr. Matisse will be here tomorrow,
Yeah,
so maybe we could take a look at that SRT, maybe
Yeah.
something specific, cause especially if it's gonna be on the power standards next week. Maybe he can give us a hack or,
any way we can
something.
see that test before they give it to us?
I don't know.
Because I can go back to the last two and look and see, they did have the standard, but that standard is broad, man.
Yeah.
And, if it's just gonna be dilations like we started on doing, my kid's gonna ace
Okay,
that part of it.
okay.
But if they go on to, if they start on the trigonometry part, we ain't got close to that yet because of our review in
Okay.
January, But we will, believe me, to me, that's the most important thing in geometry, right there. The whole world runs off trigonometry. All of it, all science is trigonometry, everything. Can't just ignore it.
I ain't
Do you
mean,
wanna take your soapbox?
I ain't mean to stretch
anyway?
y'all out. I apologize.
You know it. Y'all might not know it, but you do.
Oh, I know it.